My name is Piper Christian. I'm 24 years old and a recent graduate of the University of Utah. I studied environmental and sustainability studies with a minor in political science and a certificate in GIS. And I'm really passionate about using mapping and GIS to study environmental health issues. I believe it was my sophomore or junior year, I was beginning to grow interested in mapping and GIS and really wanted to find ways to expand upon my environmental studies degree and get some transferable skills to work in the environmental field, and TIFO became a huge inspiration and resource for that effort. My initial introduction to working with them was through something that Casey Bartram organized along with Ian and Margaret called Meeting of the Mappers. So they got together connections that they had from all over the world, folks working in environmental science and GIS, and we all got together via Zoom. It was over the pandemic, and talked about mapping applications for environmental issues. And I just remember feeling so inspired, like I had been exposed to a toolkit that made so much sense to me, GIS, that mapping could be a way to communicate the location of environmental issues as well as disparities and really provide evidence that supports the lived experience of so many people. There was a research presentation day that TIFO offered kind of through the collaborative that they started, because we would meet regularly with other, young environmental scientists to gain kind of life skills. And this initiative was totally directed by the people in the group. So whatever we wanted to learn or things we wanted to work on, they kind of directed that for us, which was so helpful. So for my GIS project, I decided to map environmental and demographic factors relating to lithium mining and this particular community, the Macusani zone in Peru. I had still very basic background in GIS, and so TIFO, I think that's one of their strong suits, is they're very patient and happy to take on brand new students and cartographers and walk us through the process. I can't emphasize enough that this was, a very introductory experience to mapping, but it was so transformative for me because I learned that initial exposure to how useful GIS and cartography can be for, looking at how people and the environment interact. What I think was a valuable lesson from TIFO was the importance of that when we work in the environmental health field, we should not only inform a community of the environmental health hazards that they may be facing, but always be cautious to pair that information with tools and resources on how they can remediate their exposure. In the fabric of TIFO's DNA is building skills from the ground up. And I think that's what sets TIFO apart from a lot of other organizations. They invested in me as a young environmental scientist and environmentalist, invested in building my skills so that I could go into my community and use GIS and other scientific applications to address issues in my area. And I saw them do that with so many other young people from around the country and around the world. This spring, I was part of a project where we were using satellite data, as I mentioned, and GIS data to examine how, as the Great Salt Lake, a terminal lake in Utah, shrinks due to climate change, it exposes playa dust, which is blowing over the Salt Lake City metropolitan area. And so this spring, I used GIS to map nitrogen dioxide, PM2.5, formaldehyde, and other air pollutants. And it would not have been possible. I wouldn't have gotten that position. I wouldn't have any confidence in GIS. I would not have had that opportunity had I not been introduced to TIFO when I was just getting started in college. I was really intimidated by environmental science and really didn't know how I could plug in, and I'm happy to say that I'm very confident in GIS now. I led that portion of my project with my NASA team, and that was because of TIFO really having faith in me and my ability to build my capacity in that area. I'm really grateful to have that skill set, and I feel like I can enter a room or a job interview or a space and feel like I have something useful to offer, and I have TIFO to thank for that.